Welcome to Export Digest, the #1 program that periscopes Nigeria's non-oil export sector with a view to highlighting the opportunities and proposing solutions to the inherent challenges. I am Femi Boyede. Over the past few days, the social media space, especially within Nigeria, has been inundated with several versions of a much-touted, confirmed report that the Nigerian presidency has broken under the World Bank's pressure to devalue the naira. While some people outrightly affirm that devaluation has already been effected, others are still speculating, to the extent that some of them are even fixing a date, 27th May 2016 to be precise, as the planned start date of the naira at a value of 290 to the dollar. Whichever position stands true as of this moment, what cannot be controverted is that the naira has not been able to determine its own value. Government has been seen in the recent past to advise business sectoral stakeholders in need of foreign currency to import raw materials and other inputs into production for exports to source for their forex through or from alternative sources.
Well, we have just finished a meeting of various stakeholders presided over by His Excellency the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The meeting had in attendance the leadership of the Senate, House of Reps, the Governors Forum, and the labor unions were represented by the Nigeria Labour Congress, the TUC, NUPENG, and PENGASN. The meeting reviewed the current fuel scarcity and supply difficulties in the country, the exorbitant prices being paid by Nigerians for the product, and these prices currently range on the average from 150 naira to about 250 naira per litre countrywide. The meeting also noted that the main reason for the current problem is the inability of importers of petroleum products to source foreign exchange at the official rate due to the massive decline of foreign exchange earnings by the federal government. As a result, private marketers have been unable to meet the approximate 50% portion of total national supply of PMS. Following a detailed presentation by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and myself, it has now become obvious that the only option and course of action now open to the government is to take the following decisions. One, in order to increase and stabilize the supply of the product, any Nigerian entity is now free to import the product subject to existing quality specifications and other guidelines which will be issued by regulatory agencies. Two, all oil marketers will be allowed to import PMS on the basis of forex procured from secondary sources, and accordingly PPRA templates will reflect this in the pricing of the product.
In the same vein, foreign airlines in Nigeria no doubt face the same problem of repatriation of capital. The telecommunications companies are not left out. Several others also who have no TAP approval to pay fees and other commitments outside the country will no doubt be expected to also source for their own capital from these other means. What are they, the other sources? How easy can it be for players in Nigeria's real sector to source foreign exchange unassisted by government? What other sources are there that can bring immediate respite? These are the issues to be tackled on today's episode of Export Digest. If you're just joining us, this is Export Digest, and we are examining alternative sources of foreign exchange for Nigeria's real sector needs. There are several ways by which hard currency flows into a country's economy. Let's take a look at some of them. One, government officials travel out of the country and they are paid extra code. They come back and they sell whatever is left of their Ester code to Bureau de Change. A taxi driver picks up a visiting foreigner. He is paid or he is tipped in hard currency. He goes out to exchange it for naira. A third option, sportsmen, especially footballers, they earn their wages, huge wages, in hard currency. They could decide to invest back home. Nigerians in diaspora earn their living in hard currency. They remit money back home. This is sold in the black market or in the banks through Western Union, MoneyGram, and what have you. Nigerian musicians go out on road shows to several countries performing. They earn the odd pound here, the odd dollar there. They come back with foreign exchange. They again sell it to the market. More formally, Nigerians export commodities and manufactured products. They are paid in hard currency through their export proceeds domiciliary accounts. Or the most popular one, and the one that has actually killed Nigerians' thinking capacity, is Nigeria exports crude oil and is paid massively in United States dollars. Whichever of these sources one is dealing with, a country's ability to pay for goods she, that is her citizens, her government and companies, purchase in the global marketplace determines the convertibility or not, as well as the conversion rate of that country's currency. For as long as crude oil was booming, it was easy for the successive Nigerian governments to fix the exchange rate of the naira by executive fiat. That is why we can talk today of the naira not going beyond a certain rate within a certain number of years under a certain administration. The result of this is what we have now come to face squarely. Exchange rate cannot be determined by executive fiat, neither is it fixed by national legislation. Of course, let's take it on a daily basis. In human life generally, the concept of cause and effect, action and reaction, usually is a basic given. One of the idiomatic illustrations common to all ethnic groups in Nigeria is the saying that if you see a rabbit by the roadside in broad daylight, it is either chasing something or something is chasing it. In effect, therefore, the exchange rate of a country's currency is determined by its foreign reserves and its capacity to earn hard currency. Another way of seeing this is that export performance is the first and foremost determinant of national economies. Of course, it then depends on the respective country what she decides to export. Unfortunately, in Nigeria's case, crude oil has been the principal determinant. According to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the contribution of respective sectors to Nigeria's GDP in 2015 is as follows: agriculture 17.8%, industry 25.7%, services 54.6%, just to do a random mention of the subsectors. It is an established fact that for the past 30 years or so, crude oil has consistently accounted for over 95% of gross national income and over 90% of foreign exchange earnings. In the Zero Oil Plan that the Nigerian Export Promotion Council has recently released, the agency's CEO, Olusegun Awolowo, estimates the shortfall in the dollar revenue that must be sourced or produced by non-oil sources at over $70 billion annually.
Now, the Zero Oil Plan is a very bold strategic plan. And what it says is that, look, we identify some export sectors. And we use 3 criteria to identify those sectors. 1, it must be a sector that is trading above $20 billion internationally. If it's not, we're not interested. Remember, we're looking for $30 billion to look for. Then it must be a thing where we have some technology about it, and it's not too difficult for us to get into that market. And lastly, the third criteria is where we have competitive and comparative advantage. So we've identified these sectors. Then we now go to the next one. We now put about 5% room. Now the target is that for every of those products, we are looking at 5%. Let me give you an example. In petrochemicals, for example, it's being traded annually. The market is $150 billion. There's no reason why we can't target 5% of that to get some $7.5 billion out of that. Now, petrochemicals, yes, this is where we should be. You know, I always use the example, the first visitor that visited me was in NEPC. And I was the ambassador of Iran. And he said, look, Segun, your LMA petrochemical plant, you need to replicate it. You need to have about 20 of it all around Nigeria. So you can produce and export petrochemicals, because that's what they're doing. The sanction on the Western world was only on oil. But after you process it, it becomes non-oil. So you can start exporting it. So that is where we're going. So 5% rule to target this. Then we also identify what we call our graduate school of Export 21 countries. We target what they're buying from other countries, what they need, how we can get them. You know, we identify the market for our exporters and targeting. But most importantly is the scaling up production here in Nigeria of many of these products. Agricultural products, for example, cocoa, we are doing some 250,000 metric tons. It's a far cry of where we need to be. But we have capacity, you know, to really grow more and expand that. Ivory Coast is on 1.7 million metric tons, and they're still expanding. But we have more land, we have more space to be able to expand. And together, working with the Ministry of Agric and the Nigerian Cocoa Research Institute, indeed they have identified a seedling that gives better yield. So we need to increase that. Under the Zero Oil Plan, we look at cocoa products. We say cocoa traded internationally too. It's on like $50 billion market, apart from the chocolate and the end products. So we need to get into that. So we need to scale up output, production of many of these things. So that's the initial background of the plan. We're still working on it.
The country itself recognized the need to diversify the fundamental base of Nigeria's economy away from oil into non-oil revenues. With these perceptions and facts, Export Digest went to town to feel the pulse of the non-oil sources with a view to capturing the realities, the challenges, and the prospects.
While the CBN is promoting itself as the agent of change, the agent of growth in the economy, in reality their actions do not suggest that. If anything, their actions suggest a rather collaborative and possibly subversive activity in ensuring that we never grow as an economy, because with the policies and the substitution of naira allocations for dollar revenue every time, excess liquidity will never be eliminated. CBN will continue to prevent the real sector from accessing funds. Nonetheless, the same CBN will say, don't worry, we'll give you intervention funds. In a situation where you already have surplus funds, you say you want to add intervention funds and make the surplus more surplus. And so I think the media would have to wake up and say, Mr. CBN, don't teach us nonsense anymore. We are aware of what you are trying to do. The dollars in your care, how did you get it? What manner of work did you do for it? Do to earn it? And they probably say, but don't forget we gave you the naira. Did I tell you I wanted the naira? These are the questions we should start asking, because if we don't, we'll keep dancing around the problems and we'll never, ever be able to recover as an economy. And indeed, if anything, we will walk into the trap of the IMF, JP Morgan and co, who want us to devalue the naira. Even if devaluing the naira to 300 or so was the final action, after which everything would be smooth sailing, it's a different thing. But the moment you have devalued to 300, the chances are, since you have not eliminated the cost of devaluation, which is excess, and you are still increasing that source of excess naira, the chances are you'll be devaluing to 400 naira, to 500 naira, and of course the fuel price will continue to be higher and higher, and of course you may have to be paying 1 or 2 trillion naira once again on subsidy every year.
When you take the non-oil exporters, for instance, what we had until 2015, I think it was around July 2015, is what they called the unfettered access. Exporters had unfettered access to their foreign exchange proceeds. What that one implies is, when you as a non-oil exporter in Nigeria, when you ship goods out of Nigeria, all what the government or the CBN, all what they need, or what they try to do is that when you sell those goods out, they ensured that you, what they call repatriation, you bring the money back into the system. And when they did that, it encouraged a lot of people to go into export, because then there was incentives. It was a kind of, they were kind of motivated to do export, because when you get your proceeds, you can do whatever you like with your proceeds. But when they started having issues with the volume of foreign exchange we could generate from the crude oil sales, then they now try to put their eyes into these other sectors. They now came up with another policy. I think it was around July 2015, and they said that when you do the export, you sell your goods to buyers abroad, you must sell the fund, that is the export proceed now, you must sell those funds to the commercial banks at the official exchange rate. So a lot of exporters found themselves in a situation where, especially people with long-term contracts, you had a situation where a lot of those contracts, you were already out of those contracts because the local prices could not allow you to meet up. So a lot of the exporters were actually defaulting.
What an array of problems. Almost scary, you will say, but definitely not insurmountable. In line with our vision to contribute to the creation of a non-oil export-driven economy, Export Digest will continue to shed deserved light on challenges, and through the comparison of international best practices from other climes, will complement government efforts, especially in the area of formulating realistic and easily implementable strategies. As usual, the next segment, sponsored by the Corporate Affairs Commission, will bring you information on another aspect of the Commission's activities and programs that help to enhance your company's corporate presence and performance. Please stay with us.
The provision on the listing is clearly provided in Section 525 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. The provision says, where the Commission has reasonable cause to believe that a company is not carrying on business or in operation. The distinction between carrying on business or operation is made between a company that is commercially oriented and a company limited by guarantee. So while the Commission has reason to believe that the company is not carrying on business or in operation, that it has to send a letter to that company inquiring whether that company is actually carrying on business. If a confirmation is received from the company that it is carrying on business, then the Commission will close the matter. But if no confirmation is received, or if the company confirms that it is not carrying on business, then the Commission will now delist it and issue a notice to that effect. If no response is received, the law requires the Commission to send a second letter to the company, informing it of the first letter and giving it final notice that if no response is received to this second letter within 3 months, then the Commission will proceed to strike off the name. You could see from this discussion that the whole essence is to determine, to ensure that only companies that are active remain in the database. It is, people register all sorts of companies, some for one transaction, some do multiple companies to give them advantage when they are bidding for a project. Immediately after the project is lost or won, they forget about these companies. So we have hundreds of thousands of companies in our database that are not necessarily active. And the way we know whether a company is active or not is from the filing of annual returns. We have records of companies that are filing. We have records of companies that are not filing. Some out of ignorance, because we expect that after the registration of a company, the agent that is engaged to register that company, that is either the lawyer, the chartered accountant, or chartered secretary, will advise the directors of their obligations under the law. They may not necessarily know what is required of them. He will advise them that, look, your company has been registered. You are required within the first 18 months to file your first annual return, and subsequently every year. But most of the agents don't do that. Yeah. So we have taken it upon ourselves to issue a checklist of the various requirements expected of the company after incorporation. We issue it together with the certificate of incorporation. So when you pick your certificate, that requirement is attached. So at a glance, you will know what is required of you. When any changes is made on the composition of the board of directors, you are required to notify the commission. When you change your address, you are required to notify the commission. You are required to file your annual returns within 18 months for the first annual return. While for the subsequent annual returns, you have an interval of 15 months from the last return. But most companies don't do that. And for the fact that some of these companies change their first address without notifying the commission, you will find that even when you send these letters, you end up, of course they will return it to you because the companies could not be located at their last known address.
And now to the question of the day. As usual, the first correct entry gets a gift, this time courtesy of Jaraja E-Commerce Limited. Well, that's how much time will permit us on Export Digest today. Thank you immensely for joining us again. We hope you picked one or two possibilities about export business in Nigeria. Please help us to improve your enjoyment of the program by sending in your comments and questions as we strive to keep the program's rating as the authoritative channel for public awareness and education on non-oil exports in Nigeria. Our channels of communication are open and now showing on your screen. Remember, you can watch this particular episode and others before it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/exportdigest. We'd also like to seize this opportunity to encourage you to support and sponsor the program through advertisements, spotlights, and other areas. Please feel free to call us or invite us for discussions on how you can partner with this initiative. Of course, we have to thank our sponsors for their contributions to the development of Export Digest. Join us same time on this same channel next time for another sizzling package of Export Digest. I remain yours, Femi Boyede. See you next time, and God bless Nigeria.